Setting SMART goals. Last week, I taught a few classes with the middle school learners at OVS to just prepare them to get kick-started off in a successful way for this semester. And this was part of what we talked about. So setting these SMART goals has been a really great tip for a lot of your learners. So I hope it helps you out as well. The plan for today is that we are going to start with an introduction. So I will introduce myself and give you some updates on what I am doing. And then we're going to talk about why it's important to set goals. Then we'll get into making those SMART goals. And then at the end, we will open it up for any extra questions that you might have. So we'll start with an introduction. My name is Miss McGovern. I am currently, and for the fall semester, I was the OVS school counseling intern because I'm working on my master's degree at UNO in school counseling. I currently work at Boys Town, and I've worked there for the last almost 4 years as an assistant family teacher and currently senior assistant family teacher. Oh, we have another guest joining. One moment. All right. Hopefully they got in. Okay. I work in the homes at Boys Town with kids ages 9 to 19. And like I said, I've done that for almost 4 years now. But my big news is that I was recently hired by OPS to be a school counselor. So I will unfortunately be departing my role here as the school counseling intern, which I'm very sad about, but I am excited to start my role as a school counselor at Gateway Elementary in OPS. So that's my big news. But moving forward, the bulk of this presentation is going to be about why we want to set goals and then how to set goals in an effective way. So I just love this quote, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. And when I shared this with a lot of the middle school learners last week, they had some really great insight into what this means for them. They talked about how having your own motivation is so important, and being optimistic is so important in reaching your goals. Do any of you have anything, does this quote mean anything to any of you, or can you describe it in your own words?
I think to me that one means you kind of set yourself up for success or for failure, either way. So you need to set yourself up for success, and like you said, be optimistic and set goals so you can reach them.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I agree. Yeah, that's my interpretation of this as well. We can set ourselves up for success or struggle, and that's why it's important to set goals that are realistic, attainable, and just set goals in general, because it gets us in that positive, motivated mindset. Okay, so why is it important to set goals? Goal setting can seem overwhelming, discouraging, and just overall unappealing. However, it is so important. I know that throughout our lives, especially as we get older, everybody comes up with a New Year's resolution, and in a couple weeks or months, you find yourself, not really following through with that, right? And so it can be a little bit discouraging to set goals. It can also feel overwhelming because you're trying to take on all of these new changes in your life, right? But it is really important, and this is why. Goals keep us motivated, right? They keep pushing us to do new things. Sorry, let me get this out of our way. They keep pushing us to try more, do more, and be better. And that's why goal setting is really important for families and learners, because while our learners are working on pacing themselves, some of them are new to OVS, it's important for them to set goals to continue to stay motivated to improve those grades or keep those grades higher, try new things. And goals are a great way to encourage us to do those. Again, we continue to grow. Our goal in life, right, is for all of our learners to be lifelong learners. And so in order to do that, they have to set goals for themselves. And we have to role model that. So we always want to continue to growing, and every day is a new day. So that's another reason why it's important to set goals. Goals also encourage us to self-reflect. They give us the opportunity to look at what areas of our life we can change or improve. And this is really important because, again, it encourages our own growth, but especially as a family, it's important to show that self-reflection to our learners because no one is perfect. And although we want to set high standards for ourselves, we also want to be humble and understand that no one is perfect. And so by self-reflecting, we can set goals that can help us continue to grow and be better. Goals also keep us focused. So they give us a path, right? When we set a goal, especially if it's related to something like our learners, to their schoolwork, they keep us focused on the things that are important to us. So that's why it's important to go back to self-reflecting when we're setting our goals so we can stay focused on things that are relevant and applicable to us. Goals can also help us measure our progress. When we break down the SMART acronym that we're going to talk about later in the presentation, one part of it is making it measurable. Because goals, goals are just a dream if they don't have a plan. And I'll refer to that again later in the presentation. But if we set real goals, they're helping us measure our progress to tell us if we are making progress or not. Which is really important because, again, that can help to keep us motivated. If we're seeing that we are making progress, we want to make more. And if we're seeing that we're not making progress, we know what to change or fix. So does anyone have anything that they would add about why it is important to set goals, or maybe why goal setting can be difficult or challenging at times?
This is Wendy. I can't remember what I was reading, but it mentioned just the development of students. They are not developmentally set up for success in regards to thinking about long term. And so having goals set and chunking goals, short term goals throughout, really supports students because they just aren't capable developmentally to be thinking towards the future. And so this is difficult for students to do alone, which is why I think it's so essential for adults, for us to model how we are working through our own goals, but then also supporting our learners do the same.
Yeah, great. Thank you for sharing that. Does anyone else have anything they would like to add about why goal setting is important or why it might be challenging?
Hi, yes, this is Dave. And I think it's important to set goals because when you are able to achieve that goal, you can kind of it's like a win, right? Like a little
Mhm.
mini. And so that the child can kind of relate that to like, hey, I was able to achieve something. And if they haven't been able to achieve it, it gives them something to strive for.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that we try to find sorry, my notifications sometimes come up. We try to like find a lot of validation from outside sources. And when we set our own goals, they're a way to keep our own selves motivated. And that's a really important skill to teach our learners because we need to help them focus on being independently motivated. Because at the end of the day, unfortunately, we are the only people that we can 100% of the time rely on to be there, right? And so if we continue to encourage our learners to be self-motivated, then they can continue to make that growth on their own, which I think is so important and builds great self-esteem in them. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, so now I wanted to talk a little bit about setting goals with your learner. So children can be a little bit resistant to completing tasks. That's totally shocking, right? So how do we convince our learners to set goals? In my work at Boys Town, when you tell a kid, hey, you need to do the kitchen chore, right? They can be a little resistant to that at times, which is understandable. But there are some ways that we can help get them to do those things or persuade them to do those things that don't make them seem so intimidating or upsetting, or really it gives them some control of the situation too. So one idea that I had is to make it a family project. I know a lot of families, especially at the beginning of the year, the beginning of, the semester, they like to take some time to sit down and set goals together. But I would encourage you to do this not only at times where it's easy or predictable to set goals, but maybe make it like a routine in your family to set goals once a week and check in with each other, or once a month. I think that would be a great tradition to start with your family, to help encourage your learners to, again, be self-motivated and try to find things that they can self-reflect on and improve in their lives. Plus, when you're role modeling that, you can make it fun. And I'll talk about that here in a second as well. Like I said earlier, giving them some choice and autonomy is really important when it comes to asking them to do anything, especially goal setting. We want them, again, to be self-motivated. So if you're wanting them to set a goal and you're really hoping that they strive for, getting all B's in class, they're typically getting, lower grades. I would encourage you, instead of, directing them to specifically set that goal, give them some controlled choices. So say, hey, we're all going to set a goal related to learning. So your goal needs to be related to school in some way. Or, hey, you've really been struggling with your attendance in class, so let's set a goal around that. That way, they have some guidance in that goal setting, but they also have some independence in it as well. I think it's really important to listen to your learners and repeat. It's important to hear what they're saying and use their language when they're setting goals, so that you don't find yourself, again, kind of subtly directing them to do things that you want them to do. We want them to be self-motivated in their goal setting. So try to use their language when it comes to their goals. And then I think it's really important to make it fun by adding rewards. And those rewards could be a family activity that you're doing together, or just encouraging them to come up with something that's reinforcing to them. Everybody has things that they enjoy. And although you might think that it's a fun idea to take the family ice skating, your learner might find that to not be a reinforcing activity, right? That could be embarrassing for them, uncomfortable. So listen to what might be rewarding to your learner, and try to implement that in their goal setting. A lot of the middle school students that I worked with last week said that this was a huge motivator for them to stay on task when they're working on their skill work or their schoolwork. Is to know that they have some sort of reward coming at the end of that. So they have, whether that's they get to take a break and play 10 minutes of a video game, and then they get back to their work after completing, a unit, or whether that's they know that they get to call a friend at the end of the day, or play with their brother or sister. I think that it's really important to set those goals and those rewards. Sorry, we have another guest in the lobby. Perfect. All right, welcome. Let's see. Okay, so does anyone have any questions or comments about this slide here? Is there anything on this slide that you think you might try with your learner? Yes, Gloria?
I think letting them participate in the goal setting really kind of spoke to me, because usually I'm the one who sets their goals and I'm the one who gives them and the option of what the rewards would be, but maybe them to the rewards and some of the goals I think would be a lot better. And I don't know why I just didn't think of that before, but I think that was a good reminder to let them have voice in that process.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. Dave, did you want to add something? I saw your microphone went off.
Well, this is Lindsay. I'm Dave's wife. We've tried everything except really the listening and repeating one. Maybe if we didn't sound so much like parents when we were telling him how to do things, or when we were working with him, that maybe he'd relax a little bit and be more willing, you know?
Great. I'm glad you liked that. Thank you for sharing. All right. So now we're going to talk a little bit about making goals smart. So I do have a video here. Dr. Lowenstein, do you know if it's okay for me to show a video on this, like rights for YouTube and everything?
We're good.
Okay, sounds good. I'm going to go ahead and exit then and pull up the video. And sometimes these videos have been a little bit glitchy for learners last week, but hopefully you can at least listen and get the message of it.
Goal setting is a powerful tool in increasing productivity. In fact, setting goals can increase your productivity by 11 to 25%. But actually setting and working towards goals can be challenging. So let's get smart about goals. S, specific. Ask yourself what you want to accomplish. And most importantly, why? M, make it measurable. Are you able to tell when you've reached your goal? A, attainable. Goals should stretch you so you feel excited, but within your current ability. R, relevant. Set goals that are going to positively impact your life. Does this goal fit in with your other life's goals and dreams? T, time-based. A goal with a time deadline will create a sense of urgency and give you the energy you need to complete it. Finally, once you achieve your goal, it's time to celebrate and set the next goal.
All right. So hopefully that helped break down a little bit of what I mean in regards to setting SMART goals. I asked my learners last week, is there anything that you liked or learned from that video? So I'll go ahead and ask that in this parent workshop. So is there anything that you liked or learned from that video? All right. Well, we will go ahead and review kind of what they discussed. So let's review the SMART acronym. So S stands for specific. So we want to include all the details when we're setting a goal. I think it's really easy to say something like, oh, I want to get more sleep. Well, what does that mean? Where are you sleeping? How long are you sleeping? Are you sleeping straight through the night? Those really specific things help your goal be more realistic and attainable for you. Measurable. So how will you know when it has been accomplished? They used a number system in the video that we watched. So he set his goal to do 10 pull-ups. So if he completes 8 pull-ups, he knows that he has not met his goal yet. But if he completes 10 pull-ups, he knows that he has met his goal. Attainable. So can anyone do this? Can you do this? The example they used in the video was that he wanted to get fit, but was setting his goal to do 100 pull-ups when he couldn't even do one. So he adjusted it to do 10. And then after he did 10, he adjusted it to do 20. So these make our goals attainable. If our goals are not attainable, we tend to get more easily discouraged and don't want to set goals in the future. Relevant, so R for relevant. Does this make sense for you? If I say I really want to get fit by going surfing every day, that doesn't make a lot of sense for me because it's the winter in Omaha, Nebraska, so there aren't a lot of waves for me to catch. So we need to make sure that the goals that we are setting make sense for us. And then time bound. Again, a goal without a deadline is just a dream. So we need to make sure that we are setting specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound goals so that we know that we are accomplishing them and it's not a guessing game for us. This will also help us ensure that we're meeting our goals. Obviously, we have to put in the work to meet the goal, but when we give ourselves these gray areas or goals that are unrealistic, we're unlikely to meet those goals and we're going to be more dissatisfied and discouraged with our progress. Does anyone have questions about any of these letters here or what it means to set a SMART goal? Okay. Now we're going to practice. So I would like everyone who's in the meeting to grab a piece of paper, a sticky note, whatever you can find, and write one SMART goal for yourself. And of course, I would encourage you to do this with your learners at some point, tonight, maybe after dinner, or just before you go to bed tonight, set a goal with your family members. But for right now, I want you to set a SMART goal for yourselves. So I'm going to go back to this slide so that you can look and make sure that the goal that you're setting is meeting all of the expectations of a SMART goal. And then whenever you have one written, I would love for a couple people to share. So I know that goal setting can sometimes be a bit personal, but if you can think of something that you're comfortable sharing, that would be awesome, just so we can all learn from your SMART goal. So if you have one, feel free to just unmute and let us hear it.
I think one of my SMART goals is when I said earlier to remember to let my children have a voice in goal setting, is that to actually give them a choice and participate. So my goal is every day we lay out our curriculum and what has to be done for the day and give them the goal of what maybe they would like to do first to accomplish and what they might want to accomplish last. So that way I'm just not being, in charge of their entire day, but maybe they feel like they have more say in that process of their everyday curriculum.
Great. I love that. Thank you so much. And I'm glad that you took something from earlier in the meeting as well. I just lost my train of thought for a second, but what you said made me think of something in relation to what we talked about last week with some of learners. Starting off with hard things when they're working on their units or classes for the day. That can be really beneficial for a lot of students to start off with something more challenging. But a lot of the learners also said that they like to start with something that's a little bit lighter or fun so that they can warm up in a way for their day of homework and tasks. And so I think that that's really interesting. I also think that it's important for our learners to be able to have the freedom to set their own goals because then it's on them to learn through trial and error, right? And I think that that is very impactful for a lot of our learners because, yeah, like you said, if we are controlling their choices, sometimes the blame goes on us when in reality, if they're setting their own goals, then they have to do a little bit more self-reflecting and learning as to what works for them. So I really appreciate you sharing that. Does anyone else have a SMART goal that they would like to share? David or Lindsay?
Yep, this is Dave. So my SMART goal would be to be able to run 30 minutes nonstop or run 3 miles nonstop. I'm quite a bit out of shape, and so I feel like that is a goal that is attainable because I used to be able to do that. I figure the measurable way, how will I know it's been accomplished? By, well, if I don't stop running by the 30-minute mark, or if I'm able to hit my 3 miles within that time. I'm happy with either one of those. Attainable, yes, because I've done it before when I was in the military. Is it relevant? Does it make sense for me? I feel like yes, because it's my goal to get back in shape. I feel like this is a attainable goal to be able to do that on my way to getting back in shape. And then time bound. Ooh, let's set that. I would say 2 months. I'll give myself 2 months to be able to do that. I think I'll be able to.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for breaking it down all the way through each letter. I really appreciate that. That sounds awesome. Hopefully that works out for you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
This is Wendy. I try to set a running goal too. You made me think about running, David. And oftentimes, I usually just go by the week. Like I want to run 10 miles a week. But I found that wasn't enough. Goal, not miles, plenty of miles, but for me, goal wise. So, and motivation. So I would oftentimes sign up for a race or a run walk. And then that gave me a true deadline, mostly out of fear of failure, or fear of failure mostly. I forced myself to run. And then to add on top of that, after what I've learned about myself and my motivation, is I added a partner. So I found a friend to sign up with me, and we held one another accountable by setting a schedule to run together. So it made it more fun. And so I really had to build on that non-specific goal to build in systems, accountability, time, constraints on how to meet my goal. So that's something that's worked for me in regards to just working out in general and specifically running.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Dr. Lowenstein. It is so important to have someone else to hold you accountable, and that works really well for a lot of people. And so I think that kind of ties back into what we discussed earlier in regards to setting goals as a family, because your learners can help hold you accountable and you can help hold them accountable. And that way it's more of a reciprocal relationship in working together to achieve your goals. So I really appreciate you sharing that. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and move on to our last bit, which is just asking for questions. So does anyone have questions about what we talked about today, or any questions for me or Dr. Lowenstein? I'll go ahead and exit out of my screen share here. Okay. Well, if there are no questions, we can go ahead and wrap up. I'll go ahead and stop recording here.